Set.
I think we're live. Yo. Connecting, streaming.
I think that's it. Yeah.
This is great.
Only 8 minutes.
Sweet.
It's loaded. Oh, there it is.
Yo.
What's up?
Yo. I'm
Where you
Branden.
are?
I'm Branden.
I'm Jordan.
And this is
The Action
the Action
Phase.
Phase. Welcome to our first streaming episode.
Making it work.
Yeah, man.
Excited. Making it work.
And we are here at our haven in the back room of It's Game Time.
It's game time. We got Brett. What's up, Brett? How you feeling?
Shout out to the owner of the store, Brett. We're excited. Today is a special episode, one, because it's the first time we're streaming, but also because we have a special guest, the first Prince of the season, Prince of Strategicon, Steven.
Hey,
What's up? How are you?
Steven, bro.
How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. That was super fun, and it's great to be on this podcast.
Congrats, bro. Tell me what it feels like to be. I mean, I can relate with you because I know how this feels because I was the first Prince of last season. But how does it feel to be the first Prince of this season?
Feels really good. I would say I had some good finishes in terms of getting some top four tables, but like to actually win one of the big tournaments feels really good.
Mm-hmm. Tell us about the history of the game. Like how'd you get into card games? How'd you get into Rivals?
Yeah, so I would say that I played Magic when I was like elementary school, but I didn't get super serious into it. I would say that when I got more into like the competitive side of card games, like going to tournaments, was Netrunner. I played the '90s Netrunner a little bit. The Wizards of the Coast, I actually went to tournaments. We would have a lot of store championships here in the LA area. I also flew out to the Fantasy Club headquarters in Minnesota for World Championships a couple times.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think you've been to there for L5R, right?
Yeah. But in the 5 rings, I was there. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was always, even though it's like kind of the middle of nowhere, like Minnesota, but like, it was actually really fun to go there and like
Have all those people together.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like you're looking down 12 tables of just rows of games, and everybody's competing for that final spot. So it was an experience.
So yeah, hopefully someday, Renegade will be big enough they can do like their own like world championship, maybe in San Diego. That'd be pretty sweet.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and then from Netrunner, I overlapped for a while. I was playing Netrunner and Game of Thrones card game. That was super fun. One difference is that there you had not only the Fantasy Flight World Championships, but there was a lot of community-run tournaments for Game of Thrones as well.
Oh, like the castle, right?
Yeah,
You guys go to the castle?
So actually, the biggest Game of Thrones tournament in the world was at this castle in Germany. And my brother moved to Germany, so I actually went a couple times. I visited my brother and go to the tournament in the castle, and that was beautiful. Like it was a real like 300-year-old castle overlooking the Rhine River in Germany. Like it was so fun. And then the Europeans, like they were crazy. Like they would just be up all night playing drinking games. You wake up the next day, play some more tournament. Like people would actually compete. They'd be like, "Oh, you playing that guy in the cut tomorrow? Like, let's get him real drunk."
We can get in the way of that. That's funny.
So yeah, that was super fun. And it was actually some of the Game of Thrones players that mentioned Rivals as like a game that was coming up that looked cool. So even though those players generally, a lot of them haven't stuck with Rivals, I still appreciate that they sort of pointed it out, and I'm still enjoying the game on it.
Right, look. We enjoy the game. I say we dig in. We lay out all the cards from this winning deck.
Yeah.
Tell us, how did you build this guy?
Yeah.
Like, where'd that inspiration?
The initial inspiration was Edward Kim, another prince. He built like a very rudimentary, like just kind of like I'll throw together all the Haven cards from a game with it, and it wasn't like refined at all. So it was like clearly there's something here. If you can win a game without refining the deck at all. Then he and you and I had a conversation here.
You got Jordan, the artist.
I remember that conversation.
Yeah. It was just like the type of conversation that you like to have, where we're just kind of jamming on what cards.
A classic Action Phase conversation.
Yeah.
We're just in the lab, right?
Yeah. So just jamming on like what type of cards that would help optimize this. And I remember we had 3 directions that we could go. I think the initial version that Edward threw together, maybe it had Boric as the leader. But I think we decided like what we.
I don't remember.
Yeah, possibly Boric. I'm not sure. I suggested Bruno for draw.
Mm-hmm.
I think you also suggested another possibility was like Yusuf for having the right discipline for defense cards. Like if your concern was more about surviving against aggro, that Yusuf might be a good choice. You didn't say play it overgrown. You just said that's another option.
Oh, okay. I remember that. Actually, I do remember that. Yep.
But I tend to be someone. I go for the riskier. Like I go for like go big or go home. So it's like I'm gonna go for the draw option that's gonna accelerate the win condition over the defensive option. So I built it around Bruno, and it was quite good. But and actually there was a clan clash that. I probably would have won, but I like overthought myself. Where I was like, oh, I figured out that Edward Shannon is another really good player. I figured out he's playing Throwing Shade right now, and so my defensive card is like not big enough. It's not going to be enough, so I'm not going to waste the defensive card. And then like it wasn't Throwing Shade, and I could have defended it if I had played a defense card. So it's like one of those times where you just get too smart, like you like. You're doing the clever play, but it's not actually like the wise play.
Right. And we as a group, we always say, make them have it. Like, make them have the card, even if you think they have it.
Totally. And it's like, you can't take your cards with you to the next game. So you might as well spend them. And then the revelation that I had that made the deck even better. It almost won that Grand Cash. But one thing that we noticed is that this deck got hit with constant surveillance a lot during the playing clash. And I literally like woke up, I was thinking about it like all night, and I like got up at 3 a.m. I was like, I have to write this down because I don't want to forget it, is that it already has some characters with animals in it. Why not throw Urban Fox in the deck? So that way if someone hits you with your constant surveillance, maybe you have to spend 1 of your 2 actions on playing Urban Fox, but you then trigger Maya after that. You trigger all your Doom Thrones after that, and you still have 1 more action. So you can potentially get like 5 points, even on a turn that you got hit by constant surveillance.
Wow.
And actually, a lot of people ask me, the first change that people want to make to this deck is on the characters. So we've got Bruno, obviously important, M and Maya. Obviously important
Key, right?
for
Core.
the Haven characters. Then you've got Jack and Marseille, who are just like very generally good cards, help you with drawing actions, makes sense. Haya, probably like the 6th most important character, but she's generally, she's just a valuable character that can help you grab a point from the streets, because there's tons of Ravenous in there. The worst character by far is Schwetman, and people always want to change her, and what they're not thinking about is that she's an animalism that nobody plays. Like, absolutely nobody. And for your 7th best character, that's perfect. Like, you want a character that you don't have to worry about that anyone's going to play. Because the other animalism in that is Jack. And Jack's a great character. You could, like, if I have an extra character slot, I'm happy to throw Jack into any deck. So I want my 7th best character to be someone that has one purpose. And because this deck, I know that you guys often play decks where you just like plop down the first couple characters you drop, and that's great for certain play styles. This deck has no problem drawing all 7 characters, So really, you have to think about sort of like the order you play them in. And Shweta you only play when you need an animalism. And then the other thing was, so obviously animalism is great for Urban Fox and dealing with constant surveillance. But the really great thing too was adding Outskirts to the deck. So Outskirts is a card I had never played before, but it lets you discard an animal to mend 2, which has 2 amazing uses. One is it lets you, it supercharges your university library. So now your university library, you draw 2 cards. Then you discard an animal, you fully mended the 2 blood that you spent.
Wow.
And you have no problem having both of those havens out in this deck because of Maya and Doom Jerome and Backpacker. So just a really fast way to draw the whole deck. I think I've drawn through the entire deck before. I've definitely gotten to the bottom like 5 or 6 cards pretty often. And so that really when you're playing this deck, you have to think about what is the fastest I can get to at least like 2 Doom turns.
Yeah.
So that combination of University Library and Outskirts is really important.
Yeah.
And then you should have 3 urban foxes. The other 3 animals don't really matter because 95% of the time they're going to be discarded for Outskirts.
Mm-hmm.
For this particular tournament, I took Alley Cat just because a lot of people were using ghouls to like blow up my Doom to Rome with Siege Engine, and I was like, well, maybe if I can like blow up one of the retainers off the ghoul, maybe it'll discourage them.
They don't want to lose two, yeah.
I'll, it wasn't super relevant, like I only blew up 1 ghoul retainer on the day, but as I said, really, you're only using the ability on that animal 5% of the time.
Yeah.
It's 95% of the time it's for Outskirts.
Yeah. Did you come up with any other epiphanies?
Oh yeah, so another one early on was, Emergency Bloodbath was a card that people had often crapped on, and for good reason. There wasn't really like valid decks for it, I think, for a lot of the lifespan of the game. But it's actually really good in this deck. First of all, you get plenty of unhosted actions to play it with the Pit and Marseille. So it's often you're playing it instead of just like drawing a card. And then Bruno draws you a card from it anyway. And then it helps you draw more with University Library. It helps you, you have two blood potency characters in the deck, Jack and Marseille, that are just brought back immediately with Bloodbag. So I put Jack in the streets and draw with him without a thought. I don't care if you kill him. It just takes 1 blood out of my blood bag.
And then M fuels it back up, so he dies, doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, the only reason I would care would be if like the person who was trying to get me was like close to winning, and I just needed to prevent them from getting a point. But otherwise, I don't care if you kill Jack.
Yeah.
And then also, Maya and M are like the 2 powerhouse characters. They're actually, it's an unusual deck in that the leader is not actually like the scoring engine. He's not the win condition. He's just there to get you started. Maya and M are the actual win conditions. They're both 4 blood. What that means is if someone kills them, and they kill them all the time, Bloodbath gets them to 2, and Outskirts gets them back to 4.
Wow.
So it's actually pretty often that I bring back one of those characters in the turn after they're killed.
Yeah.
So this deck requires you to rethink your thinking a little bit. A lot of decks are all about how do I protect my core characters. In this deck, you just accept that your core characters are going to die, and you just bring them back. And like you just have to have your eyes on the prize. And like I think if you're used to like a traditional deck where if one of my key characters dies, I don't have them for 3 turns. You'll play this deck too conservatively, and I think you really just have to think about like winning the game and like once.
Just go for the gold.
Exactly, Once someone has killed Maya and you brought her back, and then someone kills M and you brought her back, it's like, oh crap, what do I do now?
I killed him so many times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do see the deck list here, and I'm missing one card that I thought that you played, and it was Flesh of Marble. Is that something that you played?
You are right. Yeah. So actually, so Branden was bullying me at his game time. He was playing a Steam deck for 6th edition, and he was just lasering Maya and M. And
6th edition, they don't come back.
Exactly. This deck is built around, I don't really care that much if you kill Maya or M, I'll just bring them back. And that's one thing I can't bring back for it. And so by putting 3 Flesh of Marble in the deck, so it really helps add some uncertainty, because now, if you don't know I have it, you're probably just going to 6th edition them for the bare minimum, and then I'll say. But if you do know I have them, you don't know how to have enough votes, and maybe you play it hoping I only have 1, but I actually have 2 or 3. This deck draws so much that it's really not that hard for me to get like 2 in my hands, and I thought it was fine to have some cards that were only relevant in 25% of the map. Playing against a 6th edition deck, I need discards for my Doom to Rome, so it requires you to discard a card. Team Axe often requires you to discard a card, or I can just draw with the University Library and then discard the next to throw that card away if I don't need it for that matchup. It was actually worth putting in the deck, even if it was only relevant for 25% of matchups.
What are your flex cards?
Yeah,
along with.
So if you don't expect any ag damage, yeah, Flesh of Marble. Intimidation, I only have 1 of in there. That's just there for like an extra point.
Yeah, so I was like, dang, just 1. Just
yeah.
kill something.
So there's literally throwing knives and 1 intimidation. And mostly it was either if I just had an action that I had nothing else to do, I would use one. Or there were 2 games during StrategiCon that I won by getting 2 points with a single throwing knives. And so I would use it as like the closing move. And it was always throwing knives plus finding a way to put House of Pain into play to do 4 damage with the throwing knives. You know, generally I would not put House of Pain out until like I saw like a winning line. It's not one of the like standard havens, but it's really useful for that closing. So throwing knives, not a flex. The animal that's not Urban Fox is a flex.
Second animal.
I would say, what else? Escape Artist, I would definitely keep that one. It's a really strong defense card that's almost always 3 shields in this deck. You know, things like Cryptolect, whether to have like 2 or 3 copies. Another flex is Pharaoh Whispers. So I have that in the deck. Mostly just to bring animals back and then spend them for outskirts again. So it's more of a draw card actually than like a utility card. So it's nice, but if you wanted to change that to something else, that would be totally fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's
Awesome.
That's great. We wanna.
I just want to reiterate that this deck was incredible to us. Like when we first played against it, like the way you
Day
built
one,
it out,
oh,
we
this is
were
fast.
like, oh my gosh, like how do we stop? Like how do we stop you when you're going so freaking fast? You know what I'm saying? And so that was one of the things that and that's why I started to run scheme decks to burn Maya, because like, there's no other way to
How
stop
do we get
this
her
deck
gone?
than to just kill Maya, right?
Yeah.
And so props to you for coming up with such an awesome like machine. I think they nerfed it and you still won Prince after the nerf.
Oh yeah, that's another thing.
That is pretty awesome.
So the nerf, there were 1.5 nerfs to this deck. The half nerf is that University Library got a little bit worse. So instead of being relentless, 1 draw per turn, which is can get 4 draws a turn, it became 2 draws on your turn. And so I responded to that by changing the starting haven from University Library to Pit. The reason being, it was originally Library because I figured on my turn, my haven's whatever I want it to be. I want my starting haven to be Library because if I go 4th or something, I want to, you know, have my haven do something for me.
Right.
But that was no longer the case with the errata Library. So I figured, let's just start with the Pit. That's a great starting haven. And then the Errata to Doom to Rome is that now every time you use it, it permanently gets rid of one of your havens, which seems like a huge blow, and I think it actually ends up being just a medium blow. And the reason for that is that it still does a lot for you. For one thing, Doom to Rome still helps you turn on M. It gives you an extra haven to power M's prestige.
Just brings it into play. Just puts it on the table.
It also still gives you another option if you just really need, you know, if you're going to lose the game if you don't put out Dragon's Roost to block the next person.
Oh, yes.
Or if you can win the game with House of Pain. Like, it still gives you those extra options. Still brings people back from the streets, if that matters.
Yeah.
And then I actually added a couple property developers to the deck so that I would have some extra havens to play with. And what I found is that you can very easily close from like 8 points. And so if you imagine you close from 8 points, you get a couple points off of a backpacker early on in the game. You get a couple points off of M maybe, a couple points off of Maya, and maybe